Do you feel worse instead of better after venting? After venting about your business to a friend, do you walk away knowing that that conversation might be shared with at least three other people? And do you have a circle that allows you to get things off your chest, but they don't have advice that's helpful? Hello, sophisticates. It's Davina Dandridge back with some real talk about transforming your tough times into triumphs. You know, life throws us curveballs, and sometimes our first instinct is to vent. Let's explore some smarter, emotional, intelligent ways to navigate those stormy seas, drawing from my book, Brains and Baubles Do What Works for You, and other trusted principles. And principles work for everybody all the time. So let's dive right into this. What's the difference between crying and venting? It's all about an emotional cleanse. Shedding a few tears, totally okay. It's okay to do this. It's like an emotional detox, clearing the way for a fresh start each time that there is an emotional event that you need to purge from. As single moms, while we are hustling harder, right, trying to keep up looks wise and attempting to be all things to everybody, we get overwhelmed. And that's normal. The question is, what do you do when overwhelm sets in and you have to do something just to not give up? What most people do is that they vent. They vent to someone who they feel can empathize with them. And I've been there more than one time in my life too. I can remember when my first husband and I separated. It was devastating for me. The loss of a marriage, just that hurt that is unexplainable, right? But I talked to everyone about what I was going through. Everyone that would listen, everyone that knew us as a couple, I would talk to them about it. And I was asking them the why questions, knowing that they didn't even have the answers. How could they? I was looking for someone to tell me what I thought I needed to hear at that moment. And of course, people told me what I wanted to hear to make me feel better. They told me that it wasn't my fault, that I could have done better, or that they knew that it wouldn't work all along because of X, Y, or Z. They knew these things, and somehow they were smarter than I was and knew more about the relationship, but they knew it and didn't be a true friend and tell me about it. If that was even true, they didn't know nothing. But what I did discover was that venting didn't make me feel better. Venting made me feel worse. The constant sharing and rehashing of my story over and over again made me feel worse over and over again. This is why venting doesn't help your emotions. We, and I mean women, are not supposed to be emotionally hard as nails or prepared to constantly defend or protect all that we know and love. That's not how we're made. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. But life circumstances places us in positions where we must defend and protect and put on a tough armor. And we do it, right? We build that resilience because we have to. But there comes a time when emotional reality hits and we have to face our emotions and manage the vulnerability versus boundaries equation. And it is an equation, it's a delicate balance of being vulnerable and setting up boundaries to protect yourself. I always say that the boundaries that you create are for you. They protect your emotions so that you can control your environment. I did a video last year about protecting your garden, and I'll include the link in the description. But what I talked about was creating boundaries so that your emotional garden will flourish. Because you protect your garden from insects and vermin that will eat and destroy your environment that you're creating, that you're nourishing. But if you protect your garden, you get to nurture that environment without interruptions to the growth that you need to have a flourishing, beautiful, well-scented garden with beauty in the way that you want it to be. This is how boundaries act as a barrier. It's not for the other people, it's for you. It's for you to put up a wall against who you share things with and how you share them. And I'll talk about how and to who you should express your feelings. I started talking about strength because we have to defend and protect areas of our lives. So sometimes it makes you feel weak if you cry. If you're constantly angry and you yell and you throw tantrums, that means you need to cry. So cry. Purge yourself of the bottled up fear of failure. Purge yourself of anxiety, of disappointment, and frustration. You got to get it all out and get it out in a way that leaves you with room for rational thought, for logic. Crying allows you to use your emotions to change from being mostly negative, but layered with that fear of what other people think and about how you looking out here in these streets and to a managed emotional outlook that encourages you to make changes immediately. And it also encourages you to think in long terms with a big picture so that you can mitigate these issues so you don't keep feeling the same way or having the same circumstance over and over again. The reason most people encounter the same people or the same negative situations is because of their view of true strength. And their view of strength is skewed. Strength is demonstrated by emotional intelligence and sophisticated empowerment. You have to begin to switch gears. After you cry and let it all out, it's time to shift from just feeling those feelings to taking charge of the situation. And you have the power to do that. And you do that by examining the situation. What is the real problem? Have a good cry, but limit the cry. You're not going to wallow in sorrow. You're watering your garden. You're letting those tears fall so that you can nurture the garden in the way it's supposed to be nurtured. You create a plan by identifying the problems. And then this is one that you might not have thought about. Taking accountability for your contribution to the situation. And then you can begin to research a solution. You have to own your part. Someone didn't just do things to you. Your environment was such that you allowed certain people or certain situations in your environment. So you have to take ownership and accountability for your part in the situation that you're in now. But this is great because you get to make changes. You are not the same person that you have been, and you have the empowerment to become the person who can do those things that you want to do. Look, and part of it is finding the right information. You're empowered to do something about any situation. You're empowered to take control of your emotions and plan for your future. But you have to find the best information. And that information can come from more than one independent source. So venting to somebody just because you trust them doesn't mean that they're the best source to help you get out of the situation. And you do need outlets, I get it, but healthy outlets matter. So there are other options besides venting to help you release what you're feeling, to help you address the emotions that are either holding you back or that are going to inspire you to do something different or inspire you to do something more. So have you ever tried just filling your thoughts into a journal? Or you could have a heart to heart with someone who really gets you. Like my dad used to say, Vivi, let's go have a heart to heart talk. And typically, the heart to heart talk was about some way he was feeling about either something that I had done or some way that I was behaving. He would bring it to my attention in a heart to heart talk. So, a heart to heart talk isn't a lecture. A heart to heart talk isn't a venting session. A heart to heart talk is a time where you can express your emotion using I, and it helps you to communicate how you're feeling so that you can address it. And I mean, writing in a journal and having heart to heart talks are game changers. I promise. I promise that they will revolutionize how you deal with your emotion, and that will help you with venting when something else comes up. When something comes up, you'll know what to do, and it won't be just blabbing to your friend. Because there is a difference in confiding in someone you trust and venting. Having a confidant is important. While my husband is my greatest confidant, right? I don't share everything with him, and nor does he want me to. There are some matters in my life that I don't share with him because I value and protect his vision of me as his partner, as his lover, and as his friend. I never want to appear to him as a relative or a homie, right? So to remain sexy, to remain mysterious and alluring, I must find other outlets to share some conversations. So every conversation isn't for every confidant. There's a great venting pitfall. You got to forget about only trusting friends from your past, right? You need to start developing your circle carefully. That doesn't mean you don't associate with people of the past, but there's no need for you to go vent to them when they're not going to understand what you're going through, nor are they going to have a solution. Venting to just anybody is a no-go. You want to share with people who uplift and support, not people who add fuel to the fire, people who give you bad advice, right? You're in a crisis and you really need to vent to someone, okay? So you pick up the phone and you call your trusty, true confidant. So for me, that's my sister. I know that I can share some situations with her and she will keep it, and she'll keep that information just between the two of us, right? But in your hypothetical situation, your true confidant doesn't answer. But your one friend, no, the one who knows everybody's business and that person is available, right? And you call because you just have to vent to somebody. You just have to get it off your chest. You can't hold it in any longer, or you think you're going to pop. And as soon as you start sharing your story with that person, you know deep down in your gut that that was a bad idea. And they say they won't tell anybody, but they say they won't tell anybody, right? But they told you things you shouldn't know about them or other people. But you just had to vent to them. Venting to this person has not helped your issue, and it has not helped your emotions. Not only are they likely to spread your business to people who have absolutely no reason to know this information, they can't even offer you good advice. They offer you other people related stories. You're like, yeah, I know so and so, she went through the same thing, but they ended up getting a divorce. Or they'll tell you what they would do or what they wouldn't do. Couldn't be me. Wouldn't be me. Or they bring up other negative talk that further damages your emotions. Yeah, he was probably with her all along. Girl, men ain't no good. Or you got to work so hard to even do that. How you going to do that? This is why protecting your environment with boundaries is so important. Your emotions impact your thinking. Your thinking impacts your behavior, and your behavior sets up your environment. So you have to be very selective as to who you share the important and private aspects of your life with, because you don't owe anyone your business, especially out of loyalty, or you think you are not being a good friend if you don't share this thing that's going on in your life. You know what? Bump that. Bump that. Your first priority is to protect your emotions. And that's what you do when you set up a boundary with yourself, not to vent. But you also have to make a commitment to yourself to do everything possible to manage these adverse emotions that may come from your past or that are triggered by something in your life. You have to address it. It is up to you to find a solution to how to manage this emotion. And it is possible. So don't think that you're just going to rest in your default emotions, because when you are becoming sophisticated and empowered, you don't just let things happen to you. You take control of your life. Part of that control is that you might need to seek professional insight. Sometimes it takes a pro to untangle all of the knots and help you through all of the valleys that you're going through in life. So don't shy away from seeking a therapist or a counselor when things get really heavy for you. You have to create a community for yourself that is supportive. And, think outside the box. Again, the people that you've grown up with, or the people that you have been around, and even some of your relatives are not the people that you need to be accountable to or that you need to confide in. I found an accountability partner that I share ideas or challenges that I have through my business. I found a partner online. Now, we started out as business accountability partners, but we're friends now, and we have never met face to face. We don't even FaceTime. We've been face to face doing things in business, but we speak on the phone multiple times a week. What this relationship has done is it's provided me with an outlet to share this part of my life with someone who can relate and someone who could have appropriate and applicable advice, not just someone who is just lending an ear for the sake of just letting me get it off my chest. And I'm not concerned about her telling my business to everyone I know. And you can do this. You can find a group, and that group can be in person or online, but you need to find someone that you can share and have confidence in and confide in. You have to do that for yourself. Finding an accountability partner is great. But in order to truly find clarity for your situation, that comes through prayer. And prayer is the way that you're going to get a moment of peace. So in those chaotic times, prayer can be your anchor. Prayer grounds you. It is that place where you can find center again. You can plant your feet and have centeredness, okay? Prayer brings a slice of tranquility and hope, even if it's just a glimmer of hope during that time. Prayer is what lets you see the end. Prayer is what gives you hope that you can get through this. Prayer is where you get the answers that you're looking for. Stop bending to people who don't have the ability to help you. Just stop right now. Creating a daily routine of prayer and gratitude allows you to develop a relationship with God. I have confidence that when I'm going through something emotionally, or if there's an issue that really needs true problem solving, I can go to God for the answers. I just let it all out. When I talk to God about whatever I'm feeling or what I'm going through, I trust Him, and I don't have to beg Him. I don't beg Him. He's my Heavenly Father. I ask for what I want, and I trust that He hears me. I also trust that He will provide me with what I need and not just what I want. Oh, but baby, I do cry. Anybody who you see that is successful in any way, it hasn't been easy. It might look easy, it might look fun, it might look like something that's just really great to do. But let me tell you, anything that looks that good, it's some tears behind it. Anything that you have to work to do, anything that is just not something simple that everybody is doing it, and you have to take time and plan and strategize and sacrifice to do, and it's well worth the sacrifice, you had some tears to fall. And it's good. Crying is not bad. I purge any feeling or anxiety or confusion that I have, I purge it in prayer. I pray until my emotions change. And that's when the clarity sets in. I get clarity about what I'm feeling, clarity about my part in the situation, and I get clarity on how to start moving forward. Might not have the total answer, but I know that I can take this one step and it's going to lead me to what the answer is. And seeking God's wisdom is so important. It's amazing how prayer can shine a light on solutions that you thought were hidden. It brings them right to the forefront. And prayer and the wisdom of God guides us towards a place of peace and clarity. And you're not going to get this audible voice necessarily, and it's not going to come through a dream, or there won't be some just blatant signal. Just look out for a tug in your belly. That's the Holy Spirit working on your emotions and leading you to a process or a manner or a way or a person to help you through that situation. When you harness the power of logic, you go from feeling to analyzing. Once you have acknowledged your emotions, listen, it's time to get logical. It's time for you to use the skills you have or seek more information and knowledge. Assessing things clearly can turn a mountain into a molehill. You can move the mountain. Once you take the negative emotions out of the equations, your emotions are free. You have transitioned from a triggered responder to an emotional planner. See, an emotion like fear can keep you stuck. You're afraid to move. You're afraid what people might think. You're afraid of what will happen if you fail, if you don't make it, if you don't succeed, if you don't shine at this. But with emotional intelligence, you can identify fear and anxiety and then use it to your advantage. Use it as a lesson or as the impetus for an idea to start doing personal development in a certain area in your life. Anxiety is that you have a perceived fear. Something hasn't even happened yet, and you're already knocking it out of the way because you're afraid. You're letting something that hasn't happened get the best of you. But in analyzing the situation, you not only find the root cause, you take ownership of your part. That's the empowerment. You also discover options for a resolution to that problem. So there may be more than one way to solve your issue. Like my mom says, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Listen, because someone else solved a problem in one particular fashion doesn't mean that that is the way that you need to, should, or have to do a thing. That's why clarity for God and the steps that you're doing, hearing that small voice inside of you, that's what's going to keep you on the right page. That's what helps you from being stuck, because you don't have to do this great big thing to get unstuck. It's those small steps, those small actions that lead you to success. When you do nothing, when you have analysis paralysis, when you are living out what someone else did, then you will be stuck. Using logic instead of emotions can do a lot of things for your life. It can lead to mended relationships. We talked about personal development in certain areas in your life and setting up a positive future environment. You can get out of that circle, that cycle, that loop of negativity or bad situations or bad relationships when you start focusing on what your future environment looks like. And that comes with the two things that we talked about: setting up boundaries for you and being vulnerable. Stop being so hard, so tough, doing it by yourself. You better learn to ask for help and ask it from the right places, because you can become a master at strategic problem solving. Using logic helps you dissect the issue. You find the root first so you don't waste time on things or situations or meeting people that's really not going to get you to the answer that you're looking for. You're able to plot a course to resolution, and you're able to do it all with a cool head. Your emotions are not taking hold of you. And you can embrace a bigger picture. Your vision expands. And here's how you embrace the bigger picture. You have to look beyond the now. Once you start contemplating, once you start venting and start really diving into how you can find a resolution and mitigate this problem, then you can start focusing on your future. You're not so focused on right now what somebody else is going to think. Or look, one thing I've learned through studying emotional intelligence is to have patience. Things don't change overnight, especially it didn't take overnight for you to have this problem. It's not going to be resolved overnight. So logic lets you zoom out and see beyond the heat of the moment. It lets you consider how today's choices shape tomorrow. Every thought and action you take today impacts your future self. So if you've not managed your emotions and you're constantly triggered by the same things, and your thinking and behavior creates the same or worse outcomes, they do that each time you feel that emotion. So if you don't address it, it's just that cycle. I said earlier how your emotions impacts your thoughts, and your thoughts impact your behavior. The result of your behavior impacts your future self and your future environment. The act of venting instead of using emotional intelligence delays your future, the one that you've been dreaming about, the job that you want, the relationship, the place you want to live, the success of your children, the retirement, the freedom, the peace. When situations happen in your relationships or at work or with your finances, they impact not only how you feel at that time, but it affects the development of your garden. Your garden is comprised of the view you have of yourself, which includes your confidence and your self-worth, the value of the relationships in your life, and your overall fulfillment. Stop venting right now and follow the process to learn from this moment and use it to create the future that you desire. Right now, you can strategize for your future. Understanding the broader, the bigger impacts of emotions helps you to create a plan that's not just a quick fix, but a long-term solution. Don't you want to just put it on the shelf and know that moving forward, you will never have to deal with this type of person in your life personally anymore? You'll never have to work under these certain conditions any longer because you've mapped out a plan that gives you the type of work environment that you want to work in. Maybe working with the team, the type of team you want to work with, or under the type of leadership, or independent, working for yourself. That freedom. Part of ensuring that you learn from emotional experiences instead of being paralyzed by them is to take time for contemplation. And in that time, you ponder, what does your future look like? How will the sophisticated version of yourself operate? Who are your confidants? How do you show up in emotional situations? Where will you live? How will you build your wealth? How will you help other people in a bigger way? You have the ability to curate the life that you desire by getting out of your emotions, by not letting emotions trigger you to an action like venting, which doesn't garner the results you want. Addressing triggers of the past allows you to see your future. And it's a future where you are bold instead of strong. You are confident and you know your worth, not just because your friend told you so, but because you chose logic instead of venting. You're able to take ownership of your life and your emotions, right? Remember this gem from Eleanor Roosevelt. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. It's about facing your challenges head on. If you are compelled to do something that right now you cannot do, that doesn't mean that your future self can't do it. But you can't just wait until, like, well, in a year I should be able to. You won't unless you make a plan to do it. It's all about facing these challenges head on. And when you're armed with emotional intelligence, faith, and a solid plan, you can do it. So here's your takeaway action to do. Tomorrow, when you wake up, I want you to try this. Write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Then spend a few minutes in prayer and contemplation and seek clarity for the day. That simple morning routine can set a powerful tone for handling whatever life throws your way. So, are you ready to stop venting and start conquering? Let's embrace this information and step into our power, creating lives filled with joy, purpose, and sophisticated empowerment. And if you're hungry for more wisdom on navigating life with grace and emotional intelligence, check out my book, Brains and Baubles Do What Works for You. Dive in and discover how you can curate a life that truly resonates with your deepest desires. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insights on living your best, most empowered life. Until next time, keep shining, Sophisticates.